are wanting a leave that is not explained in this training, then we can definitely meet with you one-on-one and go over your different options. So, what is FMLA? So, the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993 is a United States labor law requiring covered
Hi,
employers.
I'm sorry
Uh
to
huh.
interrupt. Are you sharing your screen? Are you trying to share
Yes,
your screen? Yeah, it's not sharing. I'm sorry, I
it's
didn't
not.
know.
Okay,
You
give
know.
me 1 second. Hold on. I do apologize for that. Let me try again. Okay, now you
There
can
we
probably
go.
see my screen. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so so this is the only screen. This is the only slide that I had went through. Okay. So FMLA is the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993. It is a United States labor law requiring covered employers to provide employees with job protected and unpaid leave for qualified medical and leave reasons. So CFRA, which is the California Rights Act of California, is similar to FMLA, and it allows eligible employees up to 12 weeks of leave in a 12-month period for the birth of a child, the adoption of a child, or the placement of a child in foster care. So prior to these two leaves, if an employee were to take some time off, let's say for a medical reason for themselves, the employer did not have to keep a job available for the employee. The employee would take the time off, and an employer would just replace them with somebody else because they were uh, needing to just continue with the business operation. So now with these two laws, it does give strong protection to the employees, and it gives them the right to return back to their position um, in the exact capacity or in a similar role with the same job, benefits, and pay. So, what are the reasons that we grant FMLA or CFRA? So, and what are the differences? So, the main difference is FMLA is a federal law, where CFRA is only offered in the state of California. So, this is pertaining just to California residents, well, California employees, I would say. The four top reasons are similar in um, both leaves, where they're both for the birth of a newborn child or employee. So if someone goes on maternity leave, to care for an immediate family member. An immediate family member means a child, spouse, or parent. So again, those are both covered under FMLA and CFRA. And then to take medical leave of absence when employee, such as yourself, would be unable to work due to a serious medical condition. And again, that's covered under FMLA and CFRA. And then we have for the placement of an adopted child or foster care in your home. Again, covered in FMLA and CFRA. What is only covered in FMLA is the immediate, let's say your immediate family member is seriously injured while performing military service. So that is covered under FMLA. And then in addition, if you or an immediate family member are preparing to deploy for military service, that is also covered under FMLA. One of the main differences as well is that FMLA does not protect against domestic partners, where CFRA does protect against domestic partners. So now let's go ahead and break down what is considered a serious health condition. So generally, unless extraordinary circumstances apply, things like the common cold, earaches, upset stomach, flu, short-term surgical procedures that don't involve hospitalization and involve a quicker recovery are not considered health conditions, serious health conditions. So, for example, you go in to take your wisdom teeth out, that would not and you wanted to file FMLA for that, that's not considered a serious health condition because typically, you know, a wisdom teeth, you're just kind of in and out, and you recover, you know, in less than a week or so. Also, voluntary cosmetic treatments are usually not covered under FMLA. And what is considered a serious health condition is an illness, injury, impairment, or physical mental condition that includes that the employee or or immediate family member of the employee is in inpatient care. So they're in a hospital. So they're staying in a hospital, they're in hospice care, or they're continuing treatment with a physician or healthcare worker, and it must prevent you from being able to do your job. So the reason that we say that generally the common cold and earaches usually are not covered or not considered, or voluntary or cosmetic treatment are usually not covered, because let's say someone were to go in and let's say get LASIK eye surgery. That is something that's cosmetic. It's not typically covered under FMLA. But if something were to go wrong with that procedure, and now the employee was hospitalized because something went wrong in the procedure, now it turned into a serious health condition. So that's why we say usually not covered, because it all depends on the circumstances. But for the most part, they would not be. So just because they are, sorry, I see something in the chat. I'm not sure what
It
it
was
is.
an attendance form.
Okay, okay. So just because these are protected laws, it does not mean that everyone qualifies for CFRA and FMLA. So how do you qualify for these? You must have been employed. So both of them, you must have been employed with KCCD for at least 12 months. And during these 12 months, you should have worked 1,250 hours. So typically, that is why we don't see temps qualifying, or professional expert, or temps qualifying, because temps typically won't work the 1,250 hours. We don't see new employees qualifying because they haven't been here for a year. So that is typically one of the first questions that we do ask. When was your hire date? What type of employee are you? If you are a permanent employee, have you worked continuously? There are some employees who may have taken a leave of absence for a few months, and we're really seeing how many hours they worked during that time frame. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a scenario. So scenario 1, Mario was hired December 1st, 2020. He finds out his sister has an outpatient procedure scheduled for January 2021, and she asks if he can take time off work to take care of her for 3 weeks, which is true. A, Mario is not eligible to be protected under FMLA due to not having been with the district for 12 months or 1,250 hours with the district. Or B, Mario is not eligible because his sister is not considered an immediate family member per FMLA and CFRA standards. Or C, all of the above are true. So I'm not sure if you guys want to go ahead and put in the chat what you think the answer is. I think I can switch over to chat. I thought I could switch over. Let me stop sharing for a second. So I'll read that and we'll just look at the chat. So the question again was, Mario was hired December 1st, 2020. He finds his sister has an outpatient procedure scheduled for January 2021 and asks if he can take time off to take care of her for 3 weeks, which is true. Mario is not eligible to be protected under FMLA due to not being with the district for 12 months or have worked 1,250 hours with the district. Or B, Mario is not eligible because his sister is not considered immediate family per FMLA and CFRA standards. Or C, all of the above are true. Okay, we'll just give 10 seconds. You guys want to answer? Alrighty, so this was a little bit of a trick question. It's actually C. So Sharon, you did get it right. So the reason it's C is because 1, that is true. Mario's not eligible because he has not been with the district for 1 year. So as a reminder, we have to have an employee work for 1 year or for 1,250 hours. So if he's only worked a month, there's no way that he worked 1,250 hours in that time frame. And then B, he's also not eligible because his sister is not considered an immediate family member. So for an immediate family member, it is either a parent, spouse, or child. So those are the only three that are categorized under immediate family member. So C is true. Mario technically could take some time off if his supervisor allows him to take a day or two. That'd be kind of at the discretion of the supervisor if if it's not going to impact operational needs. But he could take, a day or two off. But to request all 3 weeks, the supervisor could deny those 3 weeks. So scenario number 2, Janie finds out she needs a hip replacement and will need to be off work for 6 weeks to recover. Which statement is true? Janie is eligible to take FMLA because a hip replacement is a serious illness, or B, more information is needed to assist. So more information is needed to assist in order to help her determine if she is eligible or not. So A, Janie is eligible to take FMLA because a hip replacement is a serious illness, or B, more information is needed. So B is correct. More information is needed. So 1, we would need to know how long has Janie been with the district? So has she been here for a month? Has she been here for more than 12 months? We also need to know if she's worked the 1,250 hours. We also need to know what type of an employee Jamie is. And we also need to review her doctor's note. So again, these are kind of like trick questions, and I don't anticipate that whenever you receive a scenario like this, that all responsibility falls on the employee or the supervisor to determine. You definitely work with HR, but I just wanted to throw in some scenarios just to kind of get you guys thinking. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay, you guys can see. I just want to make sure I was still sharing my screen. So now I'm going to move into parental bonding. So always think of FMLA and CFRA to be when an employee is out for a medical reason, maternity leave. So maternity leave would be when an employee is actually those 6 to 8 weeks when they're recovering after having given birth. So that's the actual time off that a doctor designates for an employee. So that is still under FMLA and CFRA. So parental bonding, always think of it as after the birth of a child and after they have been cleared to technically return back to work. So if an employee is cleared to return back to work, now there comes the after part, and what rights do an employee have after a child is born. So just to kind of give you an overview, on January 1st of 2017, there actually was a change made to Ed Code for parental leave, which allowed employees to use their time and 100-day leave and have it run concurrently with child bonding. So the new child bonding is part of CFRA, and it allows employees to take up to 12 weeks of leave to bond with a newborn child, a newly adopted child, or a child in foster care. So this leave has to be taken within the first year of the birth of the child. These two leaves are in essence the same thing, except one is part of CFRA and the other is part of Ed Code. The employees must use the sick leave before they go into a 100-day leave and may use any other time such as vacation, comp time available, or any other available time. An employee must use all leaves for the bonding. So I'm sure all of that was a bunch of information that I just threw at you. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of break it down. So what is parental leave? So basically, parental leave allows for an academic or classified employee to use sick leave and possibly receive substitute differential. So 50% up, 50% of their pay up to 12 weeks, aka that is what the 100-day leaves. So I put the two Ed Code sections on here. So what this really means is once an employee has taken 6 to 8 weeks, so the reason I say 8 weeks is Typically, if a woman has a C-section, they are given 8 weeks. Sometimes they are given longer. Their doctor might put them out a little bit longer if they still haven't um, cleared them. So it might be 6 to 8 weeks. It might be a little bit longer. But once that official clearance has been made from the doctor, then that is when the 12 weeks would be given to a woman, or if a parent would wants to also take time off, then that is when the 12 weeks starts. Um, or a parent could also take, let's say, um, uh, a parent who did not give birth to the child wants to spend 12 weeks, right when the baby was born, then that would also change as well. So it's just it's based upon if you are the person who gave birth or you're the person who's going to be assisting the person who gave birth. So there's a total of 12 weeks that someone is given, and then we'll break down the 100-day leave. So is an employee eligible to use parental leave, sick leave for parental leave? Yes. So an employee may use up to 12 weeks for current accumulated sick leave. The employee may use their sick leave even if they are not eligible for child bonding under FMLA and CFRA. So we have some employees that have sick leave of like 3,000 or 1,000 in their 1,000 hours of sick leave. So there might be an employee that could take 12 weeks off and have full pay the whole time that they're off because they have enough time to cover those 12 weeks. If an employee only, let's say we have an employee who has 0 sick leave, 0 vacation, then once they have exhausted all of their leave, then that is when they go on that 50% pay for the 12 weeks, or AKA what we call the 100-day leave. So you are granted basically 100 days of protection, and also you are granted the 12 weeks as well. So what requirements must an employee meet to be able to take work weeks of parental bonding if they do not have 12 weeks of 12 weeks of leave? So they must exhaust all of their sick leave, be partially eligible under CFRA. Employees must be employed with the district for at least 12 months as well prior to the leave, and not have used the 12 weeks of CFRA child bonding. So we can't have, if someone's um, has a spouse who maybe had a child back to back, and they've already used child bonding the 12 weeks before, we can't, we have to wait a whole 12 months before they can use an additional leave as well. So it does kind of reset every 12 months. The employee does not have, should have not, does not have to have worked the 1,250 hours, but they do have to have worked with us in the last 12 months. So for our district, employees meeting the requirements to receive the 100-day pay must have exhausted all sick leave and then optional leaves. So is an employee required to use their vacation in order to receive the 100-day half pay? No. For Ed Code, it does not require an employee to exhaust any use of their vacation. If an employee chooses to use their vacation, they're more than welcome to. We do recommend it because it does give you full pay to your full pay instead of having you receive your half pay. So whenever we're talking to employees, we do highly encourage them to exhaust all of their balances. So sick leave, vacation, comp time for classified employees. We'll also encourage, if you have floating holidays, if you have a floating holiday, to use that as well. So we want you to exhaust all of your leave so you can receive as much of your pay as possible, because once you don't have any of that pay, then you automatically go to half pay. So we definitely want our employees to receive as much of pay as possible. And I do want to inform you guys that this information has nothing to do with American Fidelity. So if you have additional disability or pregnancy leave with American Fidelity, then whatever they pay you is separate. So that does not cover anything on here. So definitely, I want to throw that out there that if you do have any supplemental leaves with American Fidelity, that you should be working with them directly because we actually don't don't initiate that process. Sorry, that was just a side note. So, how will a parental leave affect an employee with a related? Um, how will parental leave affect an employee with related and or birth of a child in disability? So, parental leave will not affect an employee from taking leave while disabled, pregnant, childbirth, or related medical condition. The employee is still entitled to parental leave. So, what this means is, let's say the employee, um, their doctor put them out for 12 weeks um, because they had the birth of the child and there was maybe some complications and the employee just needs a little bit more time. So the employee has those 12 weeks that are considered disability with pregnancy disability. And then once that's done, that is when 12 weeks starts again. So that's why it's saying that the employee is still entitled to parental leave, even if the maternity or a pregnancy disability leave goes a little bit longer than the 6 to 8 weeks. So they're still entitled to it after their disability is they're able to technically return back to work. And what if a collective bargaining unit conflicts with the laws? So as we know, we have our CCA contract, and then we have our CSEA contract, which have language that's different than FMLA and CFRA. So whichever grants the employee greater rights, then that is what we go with. So if the collective bargaining units provides less rights for the employee, then the law supersedes. So the law is basically the minimum that an employee must receive. But if the collective bargaining unit actually grants them more rights, then we'll go with a collective bargaining unit. So any questions before I jump into a scenario? I know that was a lot of information. And again, we do not expect you to memorize all of this. Definitely, we go with, and every employee has a different, no leave is ever the same. So every employee's leave, we've noticed, is always different. I might not have the answers right away there because, again, every leave is different for every employee. We actually meet once a week as a district at the district office. We have a leaves team, and we actually have collaborative discussions about employees to try and make sure that we are giving the best care for an employee and best options. And so there are times that even myself, if you ask me a question, I'm like, ooh, let me get back to you. That's a great question, because we want to make sure that we are giving the employees as much protection. So again, this is a lot of information, but I do want to just let you know that we're here for questions. So scenario number 3, Jen has been with Bakersfield College since March 2016. Jim finds out his wife is expecting their 3rd child, so he decides to take baby bonding. Jim has already exhausted all of his sick leave balance, but he did have 40 hours of vacation. Which statement is true? Sorry. HR can deny Jim's request because he does not have enough leave to cover all 12 weeks. B, HR can approve Jim's sick leave, but only for the 40 hours. Sorry. Or C, Jim is allowed to take all 12 weeks off, but will be placed on 100-day leave after he has exhausted his 40 hours of vacation. So I'll go ahead and see what you guys think. The answer is true. So HR can deny Jim's request because he does not have enough leave to cover the 12 weeks. B, HR can approve Jim's time off, but only, I put sick leave, but Jim's leave, but only for the 40 hours of vacation he has. Or C, Jim is allowed to take 12 weeks off, but will be placed on 100-day leave. So let me stop sharing. So the answer is C. That is correct. So the reason the answer is C is one, he has been with us for more than a year, and we're just assuming that he has worked the 1,250 hours. Even though Jim only has 40 hours of vacation, he is still allowed to take the 12 weeks off of baby bonding. And this is a scenario where Jim can start the 12 weeks right when the baby is born. So if he is not one who has to wait for the 6 weeks, because he's not the person who has a disability. So his 12 weeks would actually start whenever he wants them to start. So the thing about and I do want to add about the 12 weeks is you don't have to take the 12 weeks right after the birth of the child. So some individuals will take their 6 to 8 weeks and then immediately right after take 12 weeks off. You don't have to take them lumped together. We do have some individuals, for example, if Jim wanted to wait, 6 months and then take the 12 weeks off, an employee is able to wait to take those 12 weeks off anytime as long as it's before the 1 year of the birth of the child. So if an employee, whether it's the person who gave birth or just whichever parent wants to take baby bonding again right away, they're more than able to take it right away. Or if they just wanted to wait until later on, then they're able to take it later on. For example, myself, I actually waited. I only did my 8 weeks, and then I actually waited until closer to the Christmas break, and I took my additional 12 weeks off at that time, and I had a little bit of a longer break then. So again, it's just at the discretion of the employee how they would like to take time off. There are some employees who will also split it, where they might take 6 weeks off right after, and then hold on to those additional 6 weeks and then take them at a later time. So again, that is just the option of the employee as to how they would want to utilize their baby bonding. As long as just be careful to take it before the 1 year birth of the child, because that is one thing that we are going to be checking, is to make sure when was the child born, especially if you're not taking the leave right away. Okay, so how should you request a leave of absence? So one, in advance if possible. So if a leave of absence is foreseeable, usually again, it's going to be maternity or pregnancy leave that is more foreseeable. So try to give at least 30 days to prepare for staffing. So then that way your department can prepare for the time that you're going to be off. And we definitely understand that there are some times that you can't give a notice if there's an emergency for you or an immediate family member. Just give notice as soon as possible. As soon as you're able to, then that's what we're also wanting as well. We definitely know that there are some things that just happen that you can't predict. So as soon as you're able to provide that information to HR and your supervisor, then that would be great. Make sure to give notice in writing. So we do prefer it in writing instead of, hey, I'm going to be off. We definitely need something in writing. And also with a doctor's note. So if you, for any FMLA request, we are going to be requesting a doctor's note. So it should say the notice as to when the condition started. So effective February 1st, this employee will be off of work due to, and then they don't have to give the actual reason. So there are times that we might ask for more information, but typically it does not have to say this employee has this type of medical condition, and because that is an employee does have the right to be protected as to what their leave is. But there are times that we might ask for more information if the doctor's note is vague. So we do need a little bit of information on the doctor's note, but we're not going to be asking, oh, well, what type of cancer do you have? Can you tell us more? That is not, we are not here to ask those types of questions. We just want to make sure that the doctor's note just state that you're able to provide um, the job functions of the job. Okay. So the employee's responsibilities, your responsibility is to notify your supervisor when a leave is confirmed. We definitely want you to initiate the leave process with Carla. She is the HR technician, and she will schedule an appointment with yourself and myself if we want to talk about it a little bit more. Sometimes it's easier to connect with the employee via Zoom and just talk about what's going on and how we can help them out. We'll kind of go over your case individually. So how much sick leave you have, how much vacation you have, what your when you're expected to go on half pay, when you're not expected to go on half pay. And I don't think I added this on here, but also if an employee, let's say going back to FMLA, if an employee needs to be off for the care of a spouse or a child or immediate family member, and they do qualify to take up to 12 weeks off, um, the 100-day leave also accounts for FMLA as well. So if an employee only has 2 weeks of vacation, then employee is still going to get paid half pay as well. It does not only pertain to baby bonding, it also pertains to FMLA and CFRA. So if an employee does not have that time available to them, so sick leave or vacation, they do go on half pay as well. So sorry, I kind of jumped back. I do want to let employees know that it's not only for baby bonding, the 100-day half pay, it's also for FMLA and CFRA. So if you do not have any vacation or sick leave, you'll still go to 50% of your pay. Okay, sorry. So you'll also need to turn in any absence forms of your designated time off. So we definitely want to make sure that an employee is turning in if they are anticipated to be off for, let's say, for 2 months, and their doctor's note says 2 months. If you're able to submit all of the absence forms for the month of February or March, then that's going to be ideal. We once had a scenario where an employee did not let us know that, and the supervisor did not let us know that the employee had been off for almost 2.5 months. We had no idea in HR that they were off until they turned in the absence slips later on. And we said, whoa, this employee has been off for quite some time. And we realized that the employee as you know, we get paid every month, and the only time that you get docked is if you turn in absence form. So when we went back, the employee actually had no leave and had been receiving their full pay. So when we went back and calculated, the employee actually ended up owing us money because they had no sick leave and they should have been docked for their time. So that was not a good scenario at all. So that's why we want to make sure that you're turning in your absences so you know, and HR knows how much time is allocated to you and if you should have been going on half pay in order to make sure that everything, you know, goes as accordingly and there's no surprises to the employee or the supervisor in the very end. So you do want to complete all of the required forms. There's a leave of application, which I put attached, but the leave of application is found on Inside BC. And typically these leave of applications are going to be for the leaves that are more predictable, not really the leaves of, hey, this person is off to an emergency. So these are going to be more of, hey, I plan on taking some time off for maternity leave. Here's the time off. So it's more of for an employee to give notice to the supervisor and all of the departments as to what their plan is. You have to notify your supervisor and HR if any changes occur, and also turn in any sorry, it says reacted. Turn in any received doctor's notes upon receipt. So any doctor's notes changes. So if your doctor advises you to take an additional time off, definitely keep us updated with your doctor's note. And also, do not return to work until HR clears you. So we've had it many times where an employee says, "Oh, I received," they go to the doctor, they receive their doctor's note that says that they're cleared, and they say, "Okay, I'm clear to come back to work," and then they come back to work, and then later, upon reviewing the doctor's note, there was some accommodations that should have been given to the employee. So that's why we always want to make sure that we're reviewing the doctor's note, because there might be accommodations. Maybe an employee shouldn't be lifting more than 10 pounds, an employee shouldn't be standing for longer periods of times or sitting for longer periods of time. So we want to make sure that we review it so we know that the employee is clear to come back. Typically, if an employee is out on maternity leave or whatnot, those are a lot easier to clear. We just typically just receive those. It's more of when an employee has had surgeries and has been gone for a long period of time, we want to make sure that they're able to come back and do their work, because a doctor will just clear them, but they don't really know the types of responsibilities that an employee does. So we want to make sure that we're protecting our employees and not having them come back and having them typically or injure themselves more. Okay. So HR's responsibility. So we'll review and determine if an employee is eligible for FMLA or baby bonding or CFRA. If an employee is ineligible, we will notify you. So typically, it won't be your supervisor that is determining for you if you're eligible or not eligible. We will be working with the supervisor. We do make the ultimate decision um, because there's just so much complexities and so many different laws that we don't want to put that responsibility on the supervisor. It will be us in HR who will determine if you are eligible or not eligible. So if an employee is eligible, HR will discuss the details of the leave and will provide information to you what to expect. You'll typically receive a notice that says you have been placed on FMLA, and it'll give you information as to what that means. So right after you receive a note, or we receive a notice that you would like to take time off, we'll give you the FMLA notice as well. So we'll also work with your supervisor, informing them of the leaves. And if an employee goes out unexpectedly, we'll work with the supervisor to make sure that they are submitting the absence slips as well. So we don't anticipate an employee who is out sick and is unable to, unless there are some employees who are on maternity leave, that they'll fill out their absence slips themselves. But for the most part, we don't require or say, hey, we know that you're sick, send us your doctors or your leaves of absences. You are required to do your send us your doctor's note, but the leaves of absences and the absence slips themselves will work with the supervisor. So the supervisor's responsibility is to refer HR to open a leave request. So if you know that your employee has been out, or if your supervisor knows that you've been out for more than typically 2 weeks, is where we start questioning, oh, why was this employee out for 2 weeks? If it's coded as sick leave, we'll start asking questions so we know that we don't need to step in, or we don't need to talk to the employee about their rights, or make sure that the employee is taken care of. So typically, anytime we receive a a what are they called? A leaves a absence slip. Sorry, whenever we receive absence slips, if we see that it's been more than 2 weeks, we'll reach out to the supervisor and say, hey, have you checked in on the employee? What's going on? Is there anything we can help out? Just to make sure that the employee is being given their options and is told about their rights. We also want to make sure that the supervisor is being in touch with the employee to make sure that they are giving them updated doctor's note, and that the supervisor does have the right to ask for a return to work status update. So, hey, you received a doctor's note that you're going to be out due to the surgery. Can you let your doctor know that, to give an anticipated time that you'll be off? That way that we can plan accordingly. And then also the supervisor should be asking for a return to work notice before they come back to work as well. So I did include the two different languages for the leaves of absence because there are, again, a number of different leaves that are negotiated through CCA and CSEA that are listed on here. And then the contact information, again, it's Carla or myself to start initiating those conversations about leaves. And that is all I had. The two different leaves that I didn't include on here are fairly new, which is, sorry, I had mentioned them at the very beginning. It's the EPSL and the EFMLA. So those are new leaves that were discussed. Well, they were created, or I guess proposed, last April 2020. Sorry, last April 2020, and those are COVID protected leaves. So they actually only went up until December 31st, but the chancellor did extend it until March 31st for now. So what those leaves are is EPSL is emergency paid sick leave. So this emergency paid sick leave means that if yourself if you are an individual affected by COVID, you're able to take up to 2 weeks time off for being quarantined to recover. And this is actually 2 weeks of sick leave that you receive that does not come out of your sick leave balance. So those 2 weeks are much like jury duty. When someone is on jury duty, it doesn't come out of your leave. It comes out of a account that is from the district. So this would not come out of your personal leave. So if, again, you are someone who was affected by COVID, you could take up to 2 weeks off to recover. So we can definitely talk to an employee about that. There's also EFMLA. So EFMLA is the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act, which allows for employees to take time off if they were affected by COVID and they have a child who is now being homeschooled. You have lost your daycare and now you have a child at home and you're unable to work. So that is what EFMLA is. It basically gives you time off up to, I believe it's 12 weeks. So you get also 12 weeks off and you would not get your full pay. There is a pay amount that you would, I think it's 2/3, you get 2/3 of your pay, and then the other third you can substitute with sick leave. So again, those are for the employees who have their child or children at home. I know how difficult it is, so they have actually done some laws to protect employees from due to COVID. So that is actually for now going to go up until March 31st of this year. What happens after that, who knows, because with COVID, it's evolving, it's changing. At this time, I think they thought it was going to be, something that didn't have to be extended after December 31st. And with everything going on, it was extended until March 31st. So I just wanted to touch briefly on those two, that we do have those additional leaves that for now are kind of temporary leaves, but they are protection for the employees. Do you guys have any questions, any specific scenarios that you guys want to talk about? We don't have to go into detail because we definitely understand that a leave of an employee is very personal. So if you guys just have any hypotheticals, we can definitely go over that as well. If not, I definitely thank you guys for taking the time. I hope this information was helpful. I know it was a lot of information, um, and we don't anticipate you to remember any of this information, but at least it'll give you some sort of trigger as to, oh, maybe I should ask more questions to my supervisor or HR about what I'm protected under, or what my options are. Because if you don't ask questions, you won't know what rights you have as an employee. So definitely always reach out to myself if you have any questions. Other than that, I hope everyone stays safe, and we hopefully will be back to normal. Whatever the new normal looks like, we'll be back to normal in the incoming months. Okay. Take care, everybody.